Hello and welcome, big welcome to A Spot of Positivity. My name is Rosalie, and I just like to give you a little bit of happiness for your day, and hope to do this through my weird psychedelic Christmas tree behind me. I'm sorry it might start flashing bizarrely. In fact, we were driving home earlier and my husband was like, "What's going on in the house? It looks scary, like something's on fire," and he realized it was his Christmas lights. And this was, what do you say, the DH, dear husband's Christmas light idea. I would normally go with white, fairy light kind of thing. And to me, I think that sort of started happening in the 80s. They started using white lights. Before that, it was all colorful like this. My childhood was all colorful like this. Not quite as crazy, mind you, but all of a sudden it was all white, and we thought, oh, this is kind of like Victorian, like candles, and how wonderful. And that little part of me might still be stuck in the 80s. There's not much of me that's stuck in the 80s, but that little part of me might be. So here we are, and actually, if it would just stay in one place, that would be all right. But alas, it does not. I kind of don't mind the colors, though. It's a kind of a different retro. It's a retro harking back to the 60s and 70s, not the retro harking back to Victorian times, which I've never lived through. But my goodness, we have lived through a few things now, haven't we? Anyway, here we are, Christmas 2020, and I want to tell you about eggnog. I've spent the last 20 years of my life, a little bit longer than that, in Britain, and now I've been in Cyprus a little while. But these are not the lands of eggnog, and I thought, eggnog, it just sounds so British. But I moved there and there was no sign of eggnog, and the only place you could get it was Starbucks. And for the eggnog latte, here in Cyprus they don't even have that. But in the UK, you could go to Starbucks and you could say, actually, I want just the eggnog and not the latte part of it. And they'd look at you like, you drink this stuff? Giving you the strangest look because it's really thick and creamy and sweet and stuff. But yes, and I managed to convince, I can't remember how I convinced somebody that it was actually an okay drink, and she would give it to me. They're never sure what to charge you because it doesn't appear on the menu, and they can't imagine why you would like it. And they do bring it in cartons from America, I guess. And as soon as that kind of time of year, maybe mid-November starts coming around, they have pumpkin spice and eggnog lattes. I would once in a while let myself have a treat of that. Anyway, long story, but I love it, and it's one of these things that was a total treat to me growing up. And so over the years, I have figured out how to make it, and I think this year is probably the best yet. It's creamy, and so I used to make it with cream. I'd make it with just cream, and then I'd add that to my regular skim milk, which I like drinking skim milk. Call me weird, I really like the flavor of it. I like that just kind of plain, not overly creamy, just nice, almost a clean flavor that skim milk has. But for eggnog, you want to have a bit more substance, a bit more creaminess to it. So I was making it with cream, and then I would add that to milk, and usually skim milk. Here in Cyprus, cream is really expensive, and I have my cheap side sometimes. Maybe there's a few different things I can buy honestly anyway. And I didn't want to spend lots of money on cream in order to make eggnog. And so this year I have devised something different, and I just use whole milk. Whole milk, eggs, sugar. I've actually started using a bit of custard powder, but you don't have to. Used to in the past just put vanilla and nutmeg. This year I've gone on to new realms of spiciness with cinnamon, cloves, and cardamom. Of course, nutmeg. Nutmeg to me is the main thing that makes eggnog eggnog, so you have to use nutmeg. Now, I can't really give you an exact recipe because I am starting to do this by feel. And it's starting to work really well. And even if it goes wrong, I even can tell you how to fix that, because I have had several of them go wrong, and it's all possible to fix. So here goes. You want to get a jug full of milk. I'm using like about a 2-liter bottle, and heat that up with anywhere from a half a cup of sugar to 3/4 cup of sugar, depending. And it is sweet. You can always afterwards kind of I was going to say water it down. You're not watering it down. Dilute it slightly with just a plain milk, and that will bring down the sweetness. But for the main eggnog, you want it to be quite a sweet, thick mixture. So you heat that up with the sugar. Meanwhile, take about 3 eggs in another separate container, and you whisk that with take a little bit of milk out of that thing, and or add a little bit from your fridge, and whisk it together with, just like a 1/4 cup of milk, something like that, anywhere from a 1/4 cup to half a cup of milk, and whisk that together. If you want it to be a little thicker, add about 2 tablespoons of custard powder, plain custard powder, Birds or whatever, and give that a good whisk. So your milk and eggs are heating up on the hob, and the milk and sugar heating up on the hob. Eggs, possibly custard powder, a little bit of milk are being whisked to the side. When the milk comes to, like, gets heated up, not quite to the boil, but gets heated up really, really well, you see it's starting to almost get to that part. You ladle one at a time a few ladles into your egg mixture and whisk it around immediately so it doesn't cook the egg. And I think 2 or 3 ladlefuls or whatever. Then you whisk that together. Then you can add that back to your pot with your milk and sugar and spices of loveliness. And if you then whisk it very carefully at a medium heat, do not let it boil. Let it almost boil, because if you let it boil, you could get some scrambled egg effect. This is not what you want. Sorry about that finger there. That's what could go wrong. So you want to take it off just before it boils, and you'll have a really, really nice mixture. Now also, if you are tempted to taste this, which some people are, now this is just sensible, but don't stick the same spoon back. And here's my little science lesson for today. I remember this from science, from biology. Your saliva has this stuff. It's an enzyme called salivary amylase. How do I remember that? I don't know. Which will break down the starches. If you have custard powder in there, for instance, and it's starting to thicken, if you take that same spoon, you put it back in there, it will break down. It'll unthicken, and it will turn to just a really thin kind of thing. So never go and sneak something like custard from the fridge. Don't do it. It's unhygienic anyway, but this can happen. Anyway, go ahead and try it, but don't take it, don't let it boil. Just try to let it almost boil and take it off, and it should actually thicken up quite nicely. You have to wait a little while before you can cool it down. Cool it down, put it in the fridge, and you have lovely eggnog. You can always, I said, dilute it with a bit of just plain ordinary milk of your choice, or you could put something wonderful like rum or something like that in it. I don't have anything like that right now, but it would taste really nice to put something like that in it. Rum, I think, is the thing. So we looked at where it came from, and it actually, I think it did originally come from Britain, and then when it came to America, I don't know if it was sailors or somebody who had used rum. It used to be other things they used to put in it, not rum. And for some reason, it stuck in America, and they'd moved on to other things in Britain by then. And so, grew up in North America thinking that it must be a British thing. Well, that's what happened. Anyway, this is how you make eggnog, and you get a feel for it. There's probably more purist ways of making it. This is my recipe that I've figured out, and it's delicious. Just a little nice thickness in it. Definitely sweetness and spiciness. That cooking the spices right in with the milk right away makes a huge difference and has a really flavorful, full body, wonderfulness that will be very Christmassy to anyone. And you don't need to have a big glass of it, just a nice little glass, although it's very Moorish. So there you go. There's my secret eggnog recipe. I hope you try it. Please like and subscribe. I'm sorry I do not have any to show you except in my pot right now because it's cooling down. I've just made it. It's not very impressive. It just looks like slightly yellowish, eggy kind of milk. So it will be delicious, and the eggs are not raw. It's all very safe. They just haven't boiled in there. Oh, aha, before I go on, I was going to tell you what to do if it does go wrong. And this really does work as well. Of course, I don't know what happens if it goes really, really, really wrong, but I've had it go a tiny bit scrambled eggy, and you know, I don't know, you just start feeling awful because you just spent all this time doing that. Well, what you need to do is just sieve it. Sieve it, pass it through a sieve, and you'll have a lovely thing anyway. And there won't be any lumps in it. And then, of course, after you pass it through a sieve, you could then use an immersion blender to make sure there's absolutely no lumps in it. But it will taste just as good as if you had not boiled it. However, it's just a pain to sieve it and all that. So there you go. It is possible even to rescue something that you've messed up. And I just learned this by trial and error, and it's given me great delight, and so I hope it gives you some delight as well. Thanks for watching A Spot of Positivity. Bye-bye.